I'm just going to wait 3 minutes before we start formally. I'm just giving everybody time, obviously, to get in to the meeting. As long as the meeting is going, i.e. the internet holds up, you can keep cameras on. But if the internet starts to, if we have trouble communicating, then we'll ask everybody to turn their cameras off. During the meeting, I would also ask if you're not speaking, please turn your microphone off, so that we don't get feedback and chatter across, so that anybody who is speaking can be clearly heard, because it's important that we're all able to understand each other. In order to facilitate questions as well, there's chat. You can submit we've had a number of questions submitted already, which we will put up and we'll answer. But also you can ask questions on the chat, so that the questions are all there and recorded, and we can see them, so that everybody knows what's being asked, and that makes it a little bit easier for everyone. If you have a question, when we get to that point, please use the raise your hand on screen, as in if you go to the top of your screen, you'll see raise. If you raise your hand, just like Chris is showing you there, then we know that you've got a question, and we'll go to you when in order, because it comes up numbered as well. So if you go 1, 2, if 3 people ask questions, it will come up 1, 2, 3 in that order, and then we can answer the questions in that order. So it's all can be done effectively. So it's just keeping, because there's a lot of people online tonight. And I will only be able to see, so I can only see one screen of it, and at the moment there's at least 2 screens of people. So we're just keep that in mind. So but I've got Chris and Nick also watching to see if there's questions and stuff that come up. Okay. And what I will do for the start of the meeting is I'm not doing I had with all sorts of ideas, formal presentations. I don't want to do a formal presentation. I want to talk to you about what this is, what the plans are here, and give you an understanding of the pressures that have been applied by the various external pressures to get to bring us into make some changes. And once we've done that, we'll invite questions and discussion, and we can keep that going, because there's so many people online. We need to make sure that stays. We just let other people speak and answer them, and everybody gets a chance to hear. Okay, great. So we're coming up. So we're at 31 minutes. So we're a minute past now. So I'm going to actually open the meeting. If other people come in, Chris will manage that and they can join. Thank you so many people for turning up. There are 3 screens worth of people. We've got 31 attendees, which is excellent. So thanks for taking the time out this evening to do so. So branch governance, fund governance, that's what this is about. And I would like to sort of just outline what's been happening. I've been in this role for 7 years now. I'm just coming up to 8 years in 8 years in January it will be. So I've done 7 sets of annual financial summaries, and I've had 7 reports done on the accounts by the auditors. I've taken that through the board 7 times. I've taken it all through the board 7 times. So I have now built up a fairly strong experience of what happens with our accounts across the branch network. And we get the audit report. So what happens is each year we are audited as a requirement by the Charity Commission, and those accounts are submitted for audit and checked by the auditors. And each year the auditors provide a report to us outlining what they would recommend with the accounts and whether or not we've made any mistakes. And we actually negotiate to make sure that we have a clean audit and we make sure, and the team in Chatham works extraordinarily hard, particularly in finance, and I'm counting core funds as well, to ensure that our accounts are prepared and are clear. Now, most of that we have about 110 branches at the moment. So we should see 110 accounts submitted for each branch showing what they've got. And the reason the branches submit accounts is because the overall, as a charity, the overall responsibility for all funds, no matter where they're held, if they're held on a charity account, as they are, is the responsibility of the board. And I am the signatory for those accounts. So it sits in the chief executive and the board. And it means basically any expenditure, anything that happens within the accounts, doesn't matter which bank it's in, doesn't matter which branch it's in, it is the responsibility of the board. The board of trustees is the final responsibility. So if something happened in an account anywhere across those, the branch is not held responsible for the management of that. The place that sits with is with the board of trustees, and there is guidance for how we should manage those accounts issued by the Charity Commission. Now, over the last 5 years, there's been extensive changes to the Charity Commission rules and what has to be submitted by the association. A year ago or 2 years ago, the Charity Commission introduced some new reporting structures, which have been what they call beta version. So you had to complete them, but they didn't count for the last 2 years. Now I've been doing that. Next year, that changes to a legal requirement. And that is the submission of a much more detailed program of questioning about what our accounts do. And this has all come from things like the Captain Tom inquiries and inquiries into charities. In fact, in the last month, the Charity Commission investigated a large charity with 125 branches for the way it managed the accounts, because they had 125 plus different bank accounts and weren't keeping full monthly checks on all of them. And the result was that some of the spending, and they were making some errors. So all of these things have started to apply and been brought to our Board of Trustees' attention by the auditors. And the auditors last year, after numerous times of reporting, have basically said to the board, you need to address this now. This is no longer an acceptable process. So you have to address it. And that was done in the May submission to the letter reporting back to the board. And then the board instructed me to address this situation. Now, it's not as if we haven't done anything, because 2 years ago, we actually started to provide banking facilities to all of to anybody who wished to use them. And we've currently got about 25 branches using the banking facilities. And understandably, most people, a lot of branches didn't want to do that because they wanted to retain their independence. And I can fully understand that. But the branches that are using it successfully, and without no one's actually reverted back from it. So they've all maintained their position with that. It came about because initially we put it out as an idea because there were a number of branches who could no longer get treasurers. There were a couple of branches, and one in particular, where it happened twice to them, where the treasurers and the other signatory had died, and the money is then locked in the bank. And it was very, very difficult for that branch and us to process that through and have their funds released from the bank once both signatories were dead. So we said, right, for branches, that's it. We will assist, and that's all we've done. However, the situation then has moved on, and we've repeatedly have had branches not submitting accounts, and in some cases up to 10 branches a year where we are not receiving the accounts. Now, we have negotiated with our auditors, yeah, and given all the reasons that there's people who've been ill, there have been people doing this, and or whatever, and we've managed to keep that out of being flagged as a failure. However, this year we had a very large a number of branches repeatedly do not submit their accounts, and the auditors made a very strong recommendation that the board then considered, and the board instructed me, based on the Charity Commission changes, what's happening there and the pressures there, our failure to comply in a number of cases over the years, to correct that. Now, we had the system we've got out now is one system. So what we proposed is that we would provide banking services to the entire network of branches, and that would be to provide effectively individual bank accounts to the branch based through the main Lloyds account for the charity. Each branch would be provided with a card, a bank account number, and an ability to fully carry out all of their banking facilities as they do now, with the same access and the same ability to make payments into the bank, make payments out, withdraw money, do that. They would have a point of contact, effectively a bank manager based at Chatham, who manages the accounts supported by core funds as well. But each branch would then have their own card, their own bank account number, and would be able to manage their funds. There'd be no limitations on the amount of funds they could hold within that account. There would be access as normal as if you've got any other bank account. You'd be able to see it. You would get monthly statements from the bank. There would be no charges on the account. The only difference is that we, as an organisation, can run something that is a requirement in the Charity Commission rules, which is that we should now be running monthly reconciliations across all bank accounts. It is a requirement in the Charity Commission rules, and I've got them here, and I'm quite happy to share them with anybody that wants them. The guidance specifically says we should be running monthly reconciliation on all bank accounts held in the charity's name. Guess what? We're running about 150 accounts, and we do not do any of that. That is an absolute failure, and it cannot be allowed to continue. Now, this way, we can do that. It does not affect in any way the flexibility of the branches to manage and control their accounts, because the branches would still have to have two signatories authorizing their funds to be spent, and they would have full visibility of all their accounts as they do now with any banking they use. There is no single thing I can think of that the system we are offering is less than the bank you're currently with, other than, unlike the bank you're with now, you don't get a bank manager, and we would provide that facility. You would also, so basically everything you can do now would retain. The control of all of your funds would be retained by the branches, and the visibility would be greater than you probably have at the moment in terms of being able to phone someone up and get access. You would also have a banking app on your phone, so you would actually be able to make the payments, so the treasurer could actually see the account through that, and you would have a card. So all of the things that you currently have would now be fully available to every branch. Now, you don't have to have all of those facilities. If a branch doesn't need them, it doesn't have to have all of those facilities. The 25 branches currently running don't have those. So it would be a choice as to what you're doing. But the funds that you have, the control over those are retained with them. But the responsibility for the overall management then still sits with the board, but they will have fulfilled every Charity Commission requirement in how we have governed the accounts, to enable everybody to manage it to work effectively. So we're not taking anything from the branches. We're not taking control of the branch funds. We are controlling the governance in line with the Charity Commission requirements and making it simpler. But we're also providing every branch with the same banking facilities that they have now at no cost to the branch. So it also prevents, it means that at any time, if a treasurer is not available or anything like that, you've got the ability to deal with it. No funds can go lost. In fact, that every single account should be insured is now insured because they sit within our system and they're visible. So that's what we are attempting to do. It's quite a big transition, but it's not a transition that takes any independence away from the branches. There is no intention under any circumstances to take independence from the branches in doing this. There is no attempt to reduce the amounts of funds that you can hold. There is no attempt to prevent you spending on other than making sure that nobody can access your accounts without your authorization. And also it maintains for any time the branch has problems finding treasurers or doing anything like that, any problems, particularly for the smaller branches, then the access to their funds remains. The ability to pay in, the ability to carry on working remains. It doesn't get lost. And there's added security, of course, of the fact that it is all invested effectively within the £12 million of the overall investment portfolio that we have. So the security for it sits there. But each branch will have an absolutely separate account within the system with your funds in it, of which you can see at any time. So that's the intention. How would we do it? How would we do it? How do we make sure we've got continuity? First thing is we've got the core funds. So we have the additional staffing of core funds. We have our own member of staff, Rebecca Stewart, who's full-time doing this role, looking after those funds. We would then use a banking system. It could be which will be a card system, but it's different from those of you who may have experienced the Yordex system, who've been group director, deputy directors, and maybe use a Yordex card. It's different from that because this is a bank account system. So you actually have a bank card, which is a MasterCard or a Visa, which is then linked to your account. But the difference in this is you have a sort code and bank account number. So you can actually pay in and out, and you can ask people to pay into that. You can have direct debits put into it if you're collecting funds using direct debit. And you've got your banking app, so you can actually see at all times what your accounts. You can submit your invoices and receipts on your phone. Just take a picture, fill out that, and all of that can be done. And if you can't do that, if you haven't got that capacity, you just send it in to Becky and she would upload all of that into your account. So what we're offering there is the full banking facility, with all the authorizations still remaining within the branch. We would not be able to authorize expenditure or input from your funds without you doing it, and that would be a two-part authorization, so you can always see what you've got. You've got full control, just as you have with any bank. There are things that perhaps we can't do. The use of cash can be withdrawn, and if you've got an absolute small amount, you have to pay in a cash way. But things that we would discourage would be, well, not discouraged, because again, it falls within the Charity Commission rules. For instance, if you are taking payments for something at the door of an event, so you're receiving cash, and then you decide to use that cash to then pay, say, the event that is actually specifically against Charity Commission guidance. So we would discourage that. So basically, you receive the money into your account, always pay it into the account so that all money is accounted for, and then you would pay the venue, for instance, from your account directly, ensuring that all funds received and all funds spent. Because I've seen that a couple of times where people said, "Oh, but we receive the money on the night and then we pay the venue." It's actually against Charity Commission rules, and that's the type of those small changes are the sort of things that we shouldn't be doing now, and B, we certainly couldn't do under this system. So I've talked for quite a long time, I realise, so I'm going to pause for a second and sort of first I'll ask those of you to put questions up if you want, and then we will answer the questions here. Nick, you've immediately raised your hand.
Yeah, so first of all, evening everyone. Thank you very much for those who've sent questions in on email, but also on SAPACOM. One of the questions was a bit more of a statement, really. So part of it, the bit which I could figure out the question is highlighted. I think that's question 4, and you'll see that in a second. So I'll ask Ken in chat bar, if you go through each of the questions which were posed. I've tried to anonymise them where possible, and there were a couple received on email as well, and I've put those in there as well. So Ken, over to you on the questions, please.
Question 1 is, how will charitable collections and donations to branches be handled? How will Gift Aid operate? Gift Aid would operate if a donation is to a specific branch. If a branch is highlighted, so for example, that could be a legacy or somebody just giving money to the branch, that money would be paid into the branch. If Gift Aid is being claimed on it, the total amount would be paid into the branch account. There's no difference there to doing that, because that's a donation that somebody is making to that branch, and that money would be received to that branch. It would go into their account. It would probably go into there'd be a sub account within when Becky's doing it, which said it's a donation received, and any gift aid that applies to that would be added to it. So there's no changes there. The branch is able to receive that money. You've got branches who've received substantial funds from legacy. The legacy would sit within that branch. That would sit there. It stays the same. Where there's no. This is not about. It doesn't make any sense to it, but to change that system, that money sits there within the branch structure. So all of that would operate in exactly the same way as it does now. And what we would also do is perhaps make sure that is any queries on that or anything there we can assist with, because we are already operating Gift Aid. The only thing is if you're collecting money for the SAPA charity, if you've gone out and you've collected money for the SAPA charity, you're not collecting for the branch. If you're collecting money for an event, that's one thing. But if you're collecting for the SAPA charity, you're collecting for the charity as a whole. So you've got to be what it says, must be quite careful here and when we collect. So a branch, if you decide, for example, that you wish to raise money for Macmillan Cancer, and you hold a Macmillan Cancer coffee morning, and you raise £375.28, and with Gift Aid on top of that, you have to ensure that all of those funds are paid to Macmillan Cancer. What you can't do is then add money that was received into the branch accounts for something else to that total, because as we are all part of the same charity, our objects apply. So we can only give money to SAPR related we basically can only give money to SAPRs. So you can raise money specifically for somebody else and give all of that money to that charity or that organization, as long as you have absolutely specified that's what you're doing. But if you've raised money over here for the SAPR charity and you brought that in as general funds within your account, you can't just pay it, because it's become charity money subject to the objects of our charity. And the objects of our charity are really clear, something that I have to explain to numerous charities that approach us. We can only give money to SAPRs because we are the Royal Engineers Association. That's the rule. But you can raise money so if you want to raise money for a local charity or the Low Kent Air Ambulance or something like that, you can do it. But you have to be absolutely clear and ring fence that for that purpose. Because if not, you've committed fraud, because you've asked a member of the public to give money and then haven't given the money to that charity. Same as if you've asked people to give money to the Royal Engineers and then you use that money for somebody else, that would be deemed as fraud. And why is this an issue now? It's an issue now because guess what? There's been some charities over the last few years who have used money that the public have given inappropriately, and the spotlight is on it. And obviously the biggest one is Captain Tom. That's why that's changed. Sorry, I've gone on quite a bit.
No, not at all, Ken. Second question is, as the treasurer of a branch, I'd like to know what the proposed timescale would be for requesting a payment and for delivery.
For requesting a payment, well, right. For requesting a payment, you could just make it with your card, so it would be immediate. Now, if it was a larger payment and you didn't wish to do it that way, you would have to do it just as it would be banking hours. You would make the payment. You could phone the office on Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning and say, could you make a payment? And we can go into the account and transfer the funds. So that's as long as you've authorized it. But you've got the same ability as you have with your bank now, because you've got your card, you pay your card, you've got it on your phone, you would have an electronic card or the card. So you could just make the payment as you do now. If you wish to do it as a bank transfer, exactly the same thing. You phone up, we make the bank transfer. Becky makes that bank transfer. So it's within working hours, you can do that. Outside working hours, you would have your card or your phone to make those payments.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Ken. Question 3, our branch has a current and reserve account. Will they stay separate? Who is responsible for the present account closure when the bank used has moved to a central hub?
Right. So the reserve account, you would have, you can have as many lines within your account as you want, really. It wouldn't make much difference because it's all your money. So holding it within one or two accounts or within one or two lines is what you're talking about here. If you've got a reserve account and you're saying you're earning interest on it, you will be part of the share of the investment, interest investment of the overall fund. So you would still get, because effectively money is held. As long as the money is held, we can pay out an interest on that. But the interest would only be related to the amount that you have held within the account at any one time. So you can have whichever way you want. This is entirely flexible. You can say, right, we're going to hold that in that line there, and we're calling that our reserve account, and we'll hold it in the reserve account. If you've not got that, you can have it in one account. But the same rule, the same way of there's no charges to the account, but the hope is that we can then pay interest to that from the overall monies that we have invested. So that would be split in relation to how much you're holding within your account. Who would be responsible for the present account closure? Well, basically, when you withdraw your funds from the bank will close the account. So you'd have to ensure that all accounts are closed. And the only people that can be responsible for the closure of your bank accounts are you. We can't be responsible for that. So I'm not quite sure if I'm answering that question, because I'm not quite sure if that's what you meant. If you're talking about what would happen if you were if the branch was closing and the monies were held in the central account, it would be exactly the same thing. The branch would be responsible for advising us that they wish to close, for settling all their, if they've got any outstanding debts, and making sure that that's paid. And then the remainder of the funds would, as with currently now, all funds then would transfer back to the Royal Engineers Association. That's what happens now when a branch closes.
Okay, next question. Question 4. Our branch collects membership fees through direct debit. I presume this will still happen. Ken, before you answer that, the other bits on here, I'd like to see the auditor's report from last February. Yep, I'll get that on SAPACOM. And something about the rules in there as well. Ken's spoken about the regulation around the branch funds, i.e., because the branch accounts sit under the charity number, then they're subject to the charity number, not the individual branch rules and what have you. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Ken. And it already covered branches also receive money left in wills, which is for the branch and not the REA. Yeah, Ken's covered that already. So I think it's just the bit highlighted in yellow, and I will get the auditor's report on SAPACOM.
Just to cover a little bit there, the branch is part of the REA. They all sit under there, so we're always part of it. That's why the Board of Trustees is responsible for all funds. It's the branch's money, but the people responsible for it in the eyes of the law are the trustees. That's how it works. It's quite a good way if you think of it. You know, you've got this top cover all the time, which is the fact is that the REA, the Board of Trustees, is responsible. But the Board of Trustees, of course, because so many things have changed, has become increasingly twitchy about, are we covering? So if the audit says, oh, we're not covering everything, the Board of Trustees are far more aware now of their responsibilities than perhaps they were 5 years ago. And that's because the Charity Commission, they're all signed up to the Charity Commission too, sends them emails every week telling them what they should be looking at. It has changed. The mood of the charity sector has changed significantly over the last few years. Okay, next question. If that's
sorry, Ken. The branch collects membership fees through direct debit. I presume this will still happen.
Yeah, you can correct through direct debit, and that's one of the big changes that we've looked at in the system, because we realized that we wanted to make sure that every branch has its own number, branch account number. And that's because under the old system, the card system we had, that didn't happen. So it was not a practical system for this. So we've looked and found a system where we can have every branch would have its own bank account number, so that you can still set up all of that type of payment. And then the stock, again, that just all things stay the same. Really, every system you had available before still stays. We're not taking anything out of it.
Okay, I can see a hand's gone up after that, but we'll come back to that hand. And Martin, Martin Rogers, you had a question as well earlier. I'll make sure I come back to you as well. So question number 5. We currently have a stock of ties, which are assets, but they are sold to new members or as a replacement. We'll need to process to capture sales and any applicable discounts, a debit to the cash bank account and discount and credit to stock, etc. Similar things might happen with other clothing purchases from the SAPA shop. So the question there is, how is the process of selling and taking account for stock items like that done?
It's exactly as you would do it now. Sold one tie, received cash for one tie, comes into the account. It's marked down as one item sold. So you take that off of your account. So you've got your stock. We would do exactly that. What you have to do there is you have to submit your stock record so that we can make that, or you keep your stock record separately, but you just in the cash item, it says item sold. And we know that because it says it in the account, we've sold a tie. In your stock record, you keep that we have sold one tie. Nothing changes. It's exactly what you do. You've kept a stock of ties and you've got that listed. So all of that remains the same because the branch has chosen to do that and sell ties through that way.
Okay. Question 6, and I think this will be applicable to quite a few branches. Our branch needs to pay for our meeting venue on the night. This is usually funded by a raffle, which may or may not, but usually does cover the cost. This will require the full raffle monies credited to income with corresponding debits to the bank cash account and the debit to the expenditure account. So it's that question I'm looking at. It's a transparency issue with the money to cover the venue for a branch meeting.
This is the one I mentioned earlier. It's a bit of a no. It's not a no. You can receive cash in, but you have to pay the cash into the account. What you need to do is pay the account because you must account for everything, all cash coming in, and you must account for all expenditure out. If you take cash here and give it there without passing it through the account, there is an opportunity for something to go wrong. And you will have no record of that. So the cash needs to come in. And it's actually a very specific element in the Charity Commission guidance about managing accounts. It's really specific. It sits there and says, this is not something that should happen. The governance point I've got here is, are you checking that this doesn't happen? Now, I'm hands up. I clearly haven't checked that because that's a question that's just been raised, and it's obviously a common practice, and I can understand the reasons for it. But the idea is now you pay the money into the account and then pay it over. Now you can do that quickly because you can credit an account, and if you've got something like that, we have to look at how we're going to manage that on the night. So if you know something's going to cost £500 and you haven't got the £500, well, then there's a question of how you actually pay for that event. But what you must pay, all funds must be paid into the account. It's just avoids any issues of anybody being questioned over what happens to all of those funds. So okay. It's really important that's and it is very clear in the Charity Commission guidance.
Thank you, Ken. Right, final question, and can I ask for those who've got their hands up, they copy Rick Tootle and Martin Rogers and write their questions down into the chat box. Thank you. So the final question is: there are 25 branches that have already transferred their funds to the REA HQ. Can you send me the list of those 25 are? And I know who sent that in off the top of my head. I will publish that information on SAPACOM as well. Okay. Happy with that. First question from Rick Tootle. Can we pay into our account for a function trip to save up prior to the event and then pay out when required?
Yes. It's a quick, easy answer. Yes, of course you can. Because, and we can also identify that because what you want to do is have the names of who's paid as well. So we need to be able to record that. As long as if you're receiving money in, making sure that same as you would with any bank account, you say, make sure people mark what they're paying for and put that into the account so that we can identify it. So which branch it is, what they're paying for, and then also, hopefully we can keep a record of that. There are systems for us to do that as well, separate systems that we could use to assist monitoring paying for events to help you, so that you've got that all up front and you've got a list of who has paid, who hasn't paid, who's attending, all of that sort of stuff. So there's ways we can improve that for everybody. But yes, you can do that.
Okay. Cool, thank you. Next question, Martin Rogers. Can you confirm that each branch would have its own individual account number? And I'll add on account and sort code number.
Yeah, you would have each branch would have its individual branch account number and individual sort code. This is quite a big change we've made here, because originally the old system would have been that you paid it in and we had a line, and it would have become quite cumbersome because we would have had to go through 100 branches with holding the accounts. But what we've gone for now is a system that enables everybody to have their own card, their own sort code, their own bank account number within that structure. It just makes it, because we did realize from the feedback we've had from the operations committee and other people that was a big gap, is not being able to do that. So we've gone out into the marketplace and looked for a bank that can actually do that. So we've now got that.
Okay. We carry on. Once the account is transferred, can we carry on spending branch money as we see fit, i.e., for the benefit of the branch members?
Absolutely. There's no, we're not. This isn't a policing event. This is making sure that we are, as far as the Charity Commission is concerned and the auditors are concerned, that we are governing. Our financial governance is correct. What the branch chooses to do with it and how it chooses to spend the money it has taken in for its members is up to it. The only thing comes in, the only part I would say is looking at how you use that, and this isn't so much about because we won't be able to see that, but it's if you're making donations and you're receiving money for other charities, if you're making I've mentioned that already, you've got to be really clear on that, because it's an area where if we were ever accused of not, for instance, a branch received £1,500 in, but only gave 1,000, saying it was raising money for a local school, but only gave 1,000 of that and didn't give the other 500, and somebody found out about that, the whole financial position, our whole trust in our organisation could be lost. It just goes into the local paper, gets picked up by somebody else, the Charity Commission look at it, and we've behaved inappropriately. Now, it could be for perfectly good reasons, but the fact is, if you say you're going to raise £1,500 for the local school and only give them 1,000, that's committing an offence. So we've got to be. But the rest of the time you can do. Basically, it's as you do now. You're going to run a function. You want to support something over there. You've got a battlefield tour you want to do. You want to buy a wreath for there. You want to buy raffle prizes. Those are all the things that you can do as normal. Nothing changes.
So I'll just add on to Ken there. If you are umming and ahhing as whether you should be or shouldn't be spending it, just look at the charitable objectives, and if it ticks one of the charitable objectives of the REA, then you're in a good place. Is what I'd add on to that. Okay, so next question from Anna Turner Rourke. If money is collected from an event via a raffle, can this be used as a money tree on the night as a prize?
This is a bit of that one's, it's like it falls into that gap where you've then taken the money in and given the money out and you haven't accounted for it effectively, and that actually in Charity Commission regulations is something that we shouldn't do. So if you're going to decide that we're having a raffle prize, you've at some point someone's got to account for that money, and that's it. So something has to be paid into the account. Just moving money across from it's coming in here and giving it there without accounting for it is the risk. That is always a risk, and that is not a way. The Charity Commission would say no, you cannot do that. That it's a really tiny point, but you can have a money tree. You can do it. You can say, right, we're going to give this money out. So it's possible to do it, but you're just transferring money over without accounting for it effectively is not something we should do. This is all within, because we are all operating within the Charity Commission regulations because we are a charity.
Okay. Next question from Commando Branch. So John, yeah, apologies, John. I did get this from your secretary, but I thought it had been answered earlier. More of a banking process question. But we have over 300 members paying their subs by direct debit or standing order. 5 years ago, we moved from a shared account to our own account with Holt's Military Banking, and all of our direct debits and standing orders had to be moved by the account holders, i.e. each individual member. We lost scores of members during this transition. It's taken us years to get back to where we are now. Is this going to happen again?
Well, yeah. I can. All I can say is yes. If you're going to have it by direct debit, yes, the direct debits would have to move because you would have to move the account. So that's about managing how we actually make that transition and making sure it's as simple as possible. So I can't say that won't happen. But all I can say is we've got to manage it really very carefully. I can see how it's like anything. People will forget. Will just say, "I can't be bothered to make the change." But if we make sure and go out to every individual very carefully, making sure they've got all the details, making the process as simple as possible for them to set that up, advising them the dates that they want to do it, and then keep going back repeatedly until everybody's in. That's the only thing. So there's a little bit of work to do on that, and where we can support, headquarters can support you in preparing that, we will do so and make it as simple as possible.
Okay. One from Mike Puccini, and just so everyone's aware, it was Mike and his treasurer who took myself, Ken, Ian Sidebottom to task when we were trying to find a solution for this, what the board's requested us to do. Certain things were adjusted, scrapped, and that's why we've gone down the route of every branch having an account number and sort code. So Mike's question is, which branch treasurers will be required to go the monthly statement and allocate transactions categories, e.g. management, admin, esprit de corps, etc., as is required on the current annual report? Okay, so are branch treasurers required to monthly categorize their spending?
Yeah, branch treasurers would be, and actually, this is a bit that it is monthly, and it should be done. It's not just for the annual. So reconciling your accounts on a monthly basis is a requirement. Now that can be done with Becky's support. It can be done individually. It could be done as the accounts are as we are, rather than wait to the end of the month. We can reconcile them as they come in, because you can say, right, that's it, and mark that up. So we can have those conversations to ensure that the accounts are reconciled each month. And that's an important thing. Again, it's clearly in the Charity Commission guidance for the maintenance of charity accounts is the reconciliation of monthly, on a monthly basis of all bank accounts. It should take place. So yes, that's something that we should be doing. And we have all those codes within our structure anyway. So we would be, actually marking the accounts as the money comes in, marking it to the correct code as it comes in.
There are two hands up.
Versus Ollie.
So, Ollie, are you unable to type your question?
Yeah.
Go on then.
Okay, go for it.
Yes.
Ken, this isn't a question, this is an observation. Obviously, the beating heart of the REA is the branches and the members. And we do an awful lot of things throughout the year for lots of different people, etc. And one of those things is the audit. And what got me annoyed, angry, whatever, is we were the last people to know about all this. It had gone through the trustees, it had gone through the management committee, And I picked up a management committee minutes and I read the branches accounts are going to go to headquarters. And I just felt the way this is dealt with, and this is why you've put a lot of people's backs up, is because it hasn't been done in a manner where we've all been brought into it. And what you've done tonight and Nick has done over the last week with telling us questions, etc., is brilliant. Why wasn't it done at the beginning? Why didn't you get us on board at the beginning? And that's been my gripe all the way along. I don't mind all these charity rules and everything like that is great, but leaving us out of it is, the wrong thing to do.
I'll tell you why, Ian. Because I was, it's a really good point, and I totally agree with you. But when this came up, and it came up at the end of, it really came up, driven at the end of May. So we submitted our accounts, and when the audit report landed on my desk, which I get to see before they goes to the board, obviously, because you know that, I went, I thought a bit of a, oh shit, we've got problems here. The board's going to go ballistic. So we took it to the board, and the board gave me an absolute directive to do it immediately and limit and do all of these things. And we were not in a position to do so. There was no way. I hadn't had, and I said I want to take it to the management committee, and the board said, and it was quite an aggressive meeting. The board said, you can't do that. You can do whatever you want, Ken, but you've got to fix this now. Fine. So we took it to the management committee, and that the management committee effectively is my first entry into the branch structure, because that's the deputy group directors. They're all there. So we've got some feedback from that, and that feedback was quite strong. There were some very strong. Dave, you raised some strong objections. Dave Ormsby, Mike Puccini raised some strong objections. And a number of other people raised objections. Now, those objections meant that I really felt unable to go out to and confidently present this to a wider audience. I was getting some really good feedback from people, and it was challenging feedback. It wasn't nobody. It was all gloves off feedback I got. So I wanted to be in a position where I was confident that I had a system that would work. So we've been out, we've had some further conversations, and I agree, perhaps we could have gone earlier and discussed it earlier, but I have to present something to the board that's practical. I have to present something to the organization that's practical. And I have to accept, because the board, the initial thing was I had to do this by the end of this year. In fact, that sort of still sits there. I have absolutely said this is not possible by the end of this year, because there's a lot of work to be done here. This is a lot of work. I needed the right people in place, and I think we've got all of those things now, before I can say confidently, because I did not want to present to you a system that was half-cocked. And if I had gone out in May, it would have been a half-cocked system, because I'd have gone with something like Yordex and said, oh, that'll do, because some of the branches are doing it, all of that. And we have worked over the summer to make sure that we've got something that's real, that you can actually practically use, because I have taken on board all of the comments that have been made about about making sure this works for everybody. I've had long discussions with the treasurers and people that came up and went on the sort of small feedback group. So we've taken that on board, hopefully, to design a system that works. My apologies that if we didn't go out in a way, but I just didn't feel ready to go out to a wider group of people without having done the research and being confident that we have something. I am confident we have something, a product that you can use now, and it gives you all of your controls and all of the flexibility the branches need in order to gain their independence, but also it meets all of the governance rules that we should be applying. There are things that, and part of that research, I'll give an example of a piece of research that came out. I found a letter, and these were in archives, 2004 to 6, where we had committed to the Charity Commission that the branches would not register bank accounts using our charity number. And I was not aware of this. And it turns out there were 11 letters written between 2004 and 2006 committing us to do that. And we haven't done it. This was an archive. I don't know why the archive hadn't been seen, but it hadn't been seen. So those are the sort of things that we've gone into a lot of detail to make sure that the organisation is absolutely pristine and clean. We don't have any. So apologies that we didn't go out earlier, and perhaps we haven't involved everybody as in a way we should have. But I wanted to make sure that this was the correct thing to do, and also that the board would accept it, and that it would be something the branches could work with. Phil, you've got. Sorry, Ian. Is that you're on mute?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. That's fine. And as you said there, it's a big beast. 110 or 120 accounts, and all this thing is going to take an awful long time and an awful lot of thinking to get it up and running, and doing it in stages so that we can see, say, when 10 branches are moved, what problem you've had, and then we move the next 10 or whatever way you're going to do it. But thanks for that.
And that's it. It has to be. We've got to build up the confidence in the system. And also if things have gone wrong with it, we need to make those corrections. So I don't want people to feel that this is that we're not listening. We want to make sure it's something that is practical for everybody to use. And when we see problems, we deal with those problems.
Thanks, Ken.
Good. Ken, Phil, Taylor, your question, and then after Phil, Alex and Alexandra Wakefield and Jim will go to the questions which have been written in the chat. If you're able to write your questions in the chat, please do. Phil's on his mobile as ever, so please just go away, speak away, please, Phil, Taylor, if you're not on mute.
You're on mute, Phil.
Okay, so whilst Phil is trying to figure out his mute button, that's a sentence I never thought I'd say. We'll go over to the chat bar. From Anna Turner Rourke, sorry, missed the beginning of the webinar. When will this take effect? You said that treasurers can make the payments via the app. Does this require 2 authorizations?
Yeah. There will be an authorization system that goes in there, so you can have a dual authorization. So all of these things are possible. So you'll have the usual. It's like all banking, but we want to make sure it's a 2 authorization system, so that the payments go through. So you can have a dual authorization on that. We haven't used the app yet because we haven't seen it. I was a demonstration of it today. But we'll that will be done. Okay.
I think everyone heard there that Phil's mic is now working. Thanks for that, Phil. Far away.
3 quick ones, Ken. Similar to John Monk's, it's like changing the Titanic, trying to get an 80-plus-year-old to change his direct debit. So my question is, how long can I keep my account open for? And I would say I need it at least 2 years, maybe 3, so that I'm not using it, but the odd wafer and stray direct debit is going into it.
But I'm quite happy to be flexible on that and make sure these things happen if that's what needs to happen. Okay. The only trouble is you'll have to submit that account every year when that process goes through. If I say something like an absolute rule, and it means it means 5 80-year-olds get cut out of the system. That's pretty much ridiculous. I'm not going to do that. So let's be just flexible. We'll look at it as people because we'll give every assistance we can to finding somebody, helping them. You know, to the point, if I can get somebody to go to their house and help them do it, we'll do it.
Okay,
The other quick
next
one.
question, Phil.
Is it
Yeah.
Is it the Lloyds banking app that we'll then be using in the future?
No, it won't be the Lloyds banking app, because the Lloyds banking app was going to kill us. They wanted about £150,000 a year for us to use it. Absolutely not. So we've gone to a charity an organization that provides bank. The Lloyds Bank will be where all the money is, but
Yeah.
sitting in front of that will be the bank account system, which is basically we've gone to a company that provides charities with banking services that will sit in front of the Lloyds account. The money will be held in the Lloyds account, but the access to it will be through the app. So it was just Lloyds just went, yeah, we'll give you 2 cards, and if you want another card, it's £2,500 a month. So if you want 110, that's fine. Off you go.
But if the on the banking app, it'll be a normal banking app that we understand. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
okay.
yeah. I mean, it's literally, it looks just like it's got a little bit more functionality because you can scan your receipts and stuff like that. So
Okay.
you can scan a receipt and play. So it's designed for people using. It's designed for effectively for business expenditure.
Yeah.
So that it's not for home expenditure, because it's asking you to do receipts. You know, at home you don't have to scan your receipt to put it in your bank account, but for a business you do. So it's a business app that just it looks like that.
Okay. Now, happy with that. My last question is about receipts. Because you haven't got control of our money, but you've certainly got sight of our money coming in and going out. Will we have to keep exactly the same receipts as we do now, or is there a little bit more latitude on that one?
No, because you if anything, hopefully you've still got to keep the receipts, but you'll be submitting them at the time, as long as you just do it at the time. It's look, there are always occasions where, for whatever reason, an invoice gets misplaced, or a receipt gets misplaced, or it's travel, taxi drivers, and for some reason you're paying a taxi, they write whatever number you say to them down on the thing and give you a piece of paper, don't they? That's all these sort of things happen, and we're quite, the system's got to take care of that and understand that. You just have to write an explanation next to it. I mean, we on the Yordex system you're currently using, you put your invoice in, or your receipt in, and then you allocate your code, and you write down what it was you did, because sometimes the invoice is just a number, but it's what it was you did, and that's it. So those gaps are all dealt with. I wouldn't get too and if we see an issue, we'll talk to whoever the treasurer about the issue. So if there's a question coming up, the whole thing is we are protecting the organization, which is protecting you as well.
Yeah. So can I just do a quick scenario? So I order 10 pizzas, £100 from Domino's. I pay with my card that you've given me, and I've got a receipt from Domino's. All I have to do is scan that on the app and job done.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
Job done.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Phil. Before we go to yourself, Alexandra Wakefield, sorry, apologies. I'll just go to a couple of the questions in the chat bar. Nigel Blythe. Oh, sorry, no, wrong. There's been quite a few questions there. So from Robert Ayres, this is a really good question, and one which I think is on the top of people's minds. Our members have asked, what guarantee do we have that REA rules will not change in the future to take control of our accounts? And that, I'm guessing, is a legacy thing from the RBL.
It's a bit different. I can't. We can't change the because this isn't REA rules. This is Charity Commission rules. This is money rules. So you've got a bank account, and that's what you've got, and you've got your money in it. There's certainly no intention to do that. There's no reason to do it. I'd be quite happy to get the board to actually put out a statement to that effect. I just don't. It's not a scenario that will happen within the REA. There's no reason. We have no reason whatsoever to do it. And there's no motivation to do it. There's no absolutely. It's just not. It's not going to happen. Certainly not going to happen on my watch, and my watch has got considerably few years to do. And I cannot see any. I have no scenario why that would have to happen.
Okay,
or
thank
why
you, Ken.
it could happen, or why it could happen, because it doesn't. It would be outside the Charity Commission rules.
Robert,
I don't know how the RBL did it.
Thank you for your question, Robert. I think that'll answer quite a few branches there. Nigel Blythe, how will social branches be accounted for, given they are formed generally without a committee? So social branches don't get audited, as far as I'm aware, because they haven't got treasurers and they don't hold accounts.
Right, it's an interesting one. This is a bit where, and I would this to be more of an operations committee to come up with a proposal if they wanted social branches to be able to operate accounts. Because you'd still need, the bottom line is you'd need 2 points of authorization. So social branches don't have committees that are like that. So you would sort of be becoming a branch once you go down that road, because you'd have to put in place 2 people with authority to run an account. And that's a change. And the whole purpose of social branches was for branches that organizations that didn't want to have all of that paraphernalia. So once you start to do that, you're basically becoming a branch. So kind of, I get the question, but it moves the branch from, it moves it towards a branch.
That's one for the operations committee. Right. The Wakefields, you've been waiting very patiently there. Please fire away with your question. Thank you.
2 things. One, follow on from what Ian has said. The only reason I knew about this or anything that was happening was because I belong to the REA BD branch and was talking with Ollie and some of the others. This information doesn't seem to be disseminating down to the branches. Part of the reason for that is the branch I'm now with, which is Cardiff REA, until 18 months ago had 6 people. We're now up to 28. As you can imagine, that's caused its own problems. But the dissemination of information is not coming down to the branches. I've taken over a year to find out who the deputy controller is. Now we're answerable to Royal Mons. That's fine if the RSM and the colonel of that particular unit wishes to engage with us, which they don't. Now I've spoken with Becky this week and informed her of this. We still don't know who the new RSM and the new colonel is going to be. So we're getting no information down in South Wales. That's the first point. And the second point is, after taking all of the notes that you've just put out, Ken, saying where we're going to go and the Charity Commission dictating or abiding us to the rules that have now been laid out, what is the timescales? When do you want this money transferred over and moved into another account?
Right. Taking your the first point you raised, we've got a new operations manager in the field who looks after that area. So we will task him with Royal Mons, and that will hopefully get that going. Dissemination of information. We've changed this year to the operations committee with which hopefully and a new branch, new deputy group director structure, new branch, new group structure. Moving back from perhaps a miscalculation, which we did 6 years ago. I was the chair then when we made that miscalculation, which was to introduce 17 different groups. It failed because many of the CEOs and groups didn't bother engaging. The problems is you're absolutely right. That's why we put operations managers out. So hopefully we'll get that engagement with Royal Mons. And I will take it up with Corps Sergeant Major and the Corps Colonel about a lack of engagement. And we'll make sure that that happens. On the second phase, I think we've talked about timescales a little bit. It'll be during 2026. I'm not going to say your branch has got to move by this, because I'll put out a time scale that phases the branches over, because as Ian said, and as Phil has said, there's time in this. It's got to be managed well. So we'll do that. And we will find a way. I'll put out a time scale, but it'll be during 2026. Basically, I don't want the branch network next year to have to submit an annual financial summary at the end of 2026. My instruction is to do it by the end of 2025. I will make sure that it's not going to have to carry on to the end of 25. It can't be done. I have stated I've gone back to the board and said, we cannot do it by 2020, end of this year. So we've got to do it through 2026. By the end of 2026, I would really like that no branch has to submit an annual financial summary, because they will be done by us on the branch's behalf. The branch will still see that output and then get it back. So hopefully we'll certainly fix the communication side, and we'll look at making sure that deputy group directors, and this is a really important point, this is for all the branches, the deputy group director post is a really important post in our branch structure. It's really critical. And where we've got active deputy group directors, and if anybody wants to step up to that post, it really works. But where the deputy group director is not active, then it fails, because that communication from the operations committee down into the branch network is really important. It's one of the reasons why we've introduced the newsletter as well, so that every individual, we can send stuff out to every individual more directly, because you do see that it could be somebody's ill, somebody's not there, somebody misses an email, somebody misses a communication. So we will work to improve our communication at all levels. And we do realise we've got new staff to help us do that as well. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Cool.
Okay.
Jim, you've been waiting very patiently there.
Sorry, Jim.
Hopefully you can unmute.
How's that?
There we go.
Yeah.
You're not a Phil Taylor.
All right, good. Obviously, as you know, mate, I've only been doing this lark for the last year now. And I've got about 1 or 6 very old stick in the muds that like change as much as we all like having a dump without bog paper. But what the 2 of the questions have already been asked by other members, but it leaves me the last one, and it will be the first one that they hit me with when I go to see them, and they're going to say is, what happens if we say no?
It's not really. It's not really an option. I want everybody to come with us. If you say no, then you would not be able to operate that account as an REA account. You would no longer be able to operate your bank account as an REA account. Simple as that. You'd also be members of the association, but you would not be able to operate your bank account as an REA account. You would have to take the Royal Engineers Association name off of the account.
Yeah. And then obviously you can't, and the rules also stipulate that you can't open up a separate account, obviously.
You can't open up a separate account.
Okay, mate, that's it. Lovely. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks very much, Jim. Thanks for your patience there. Right, let's just go over to the side. Okay, so Martin Rogers, can an updated guide be issued following this meeting, which covers all the points from tonight, please, so we can answer the members' questions in order to win them over? I'm slightly regretting reading that question out, because it will likely be me who has to write the summary of this meeting out, which I'll get out to people and I'll publish on Sapacom. Also, please be aware that this meeting is being recorded. How we publish it, I don't know, but it will be so that everyone can access it. It might even be that we put it on YouTube, but and publish it that way. But we'll see. Who knows? We might get some revenue from it, from people wanting to watch it. I doubt it, but there we go. So hopefully that answers that one. Next question is Alan Phillips. You say we will have the usual bank facilities. Does this include paying in slips and envelopes? As we have 9 members who don't use the internet banking, we use the post office to pay in, but they require slips and envelopes.
Right. I shall look this up. That's a really good question. It's an interesting one, because anybody that's Poppy area organizer will know that you can. They've just this year we've been issued as Poppy area organisers with post office paying in cards because there's no banks to pay our takings in. So we put your money out and you've now got to pay it. You get and you can pay up to £3,000 into the post office. I believe that we will be able to do this with the pay into the post office with cash. So because that it's becoming almost the only place you can pay cash into, and even post offices aren't that easy. But certainly, I have no option this year but to pay the cash from the RBR collection into the post office. So I think it's possible. I will, in the instruction that comes out, this area will be identified and will be fixed.
Okay, hopefully that answers the question. I'll just move back to chat. There we go. Will there be a procedure manual issued as to how this will all work? If we collect cash, will we be paying this into Lloyds? So it'll be paid into Lloyds, following on from what Ken said, or if you haven't got that, we're looking at the post office thing. Ken, will there be a procedure manual issued as to how this will work?
Yeah, there will be.
Top of my head, it will be that, and there'll be workshops done as well.
Even to be quite honest, from today's meeting I had with the bank, they even offered to attend meetings such as this with treasurers or anybody and individuals or the users who are going to be using the bank accounts to explain how to use the account. So we'll have there would be an extended period where we would have direct access to the bank administrators to teach us how to use the system. So where that's needed. As far as I could see, it was pretty much looked like my bank online banking. So I didn't see many differences between any online banking that we've got. You've got an app on your phone. You open the app up, you put the security code in, and you go in, and it looked exactly the same as a standard banking app. So, but there'll be instruction on all of that.
Okay. Thanks, Ken. I've just opened up the Q&A button up there as opposed to the chat, and there's two questions from Dave Ormsby. First one, 35 minutes ago. I think this has been pretty much answered by Phil Taylor's question. Have many members that pay? We have many members that pay by standing order. They'll have to change bank accounts pay in. If we close the present account and those members that forget to change their bank accounts, their standing order will bounce back and we will lose control of who has paid. Can the original account be kept open with, say, £1 until a year has lapsed to ensure standing order has been changed? I think that's been answered by Phil there. Off the top of my head, and I might get told off for saying this, I think it's going to be a real sit down, looking at the branches with the most members, and triaging how we go about introducing this with, dare I say it, the branches with the most members, or where it's going to be the most complex, being towards the end of this transition, because then they've got more time to warn off their members, and as the Commando branch was saying, then for those direct debits to slowly transfer over and what have you. But that's just off the top of my head. The other question there from Dave is, can the app be downloaded and used on a normal desk PC?
There's a PC version of the banking app. There is a PC version because that's the one I used. I looked at initially. And so I only saw the app today. So yes, there is a version for PC.
Cool. And I'll come back to you in a minute, Mr. Wakefield. We will. Robert Ayres got another question. Will we still be able to keep a small cash float?
Technically, yes. Why you'd want to do it, I don't know, because you can get cash. You've got a card. You can go and get cash. But yes, you could keep a small cash flow. It's not. I wouldn't recommend it. I'd recommend get the cash out for what you need. But yes, it can be done.
Okay. And Mr. Wakefield, if you've got another question, was your hand a legacy hand?
No, but part of it was just answered there about cash. if we were to turn around and draw cash, you're still going to require receipts to go in to show the use of that
Yes.
cash, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are we in a situation where we're going to have to make a request to draw the cash? I'm giving for instance, this weekend, the branch is actually doing a litter pick where in Cardiff, which we've acquired money from REA to assist with that. But we've had to draw cash because some of the things that are going to happen on that will have to be paid up front, paid by cash, and then get the receipts. Or are we going to be able to do that same thing? I know it's a bit complicated, i.e. we draw the cash, then put the receipts, or do we have to give a reason for it before we draw?
No, you draw the cash, give the receipts. Draw the cash because we're not your dad. We're just a bank. You know, you don't have to explain to us what you need it for. You just, as long as you provide the receipt, because it's effectively you've still got the people you've got to explain what you're doing to is not us. It's your branch. It's your committee. That's it. That it's not us.
Right.
Thank you. We just
And can you give me a shout when your next branch committee meeting is? I'll come down and I'll arrange for someone, if not myself, to come down and visit down in Cardiff.
Well, I've spoken with Roy. I believe he's taken over as deputy controller now for this area, and it turns out that I was the first branch to get in touch with him for over a year. Having spoken with him regarding Royal Mons, he has not been, shall we say, complimentary in his dealings with him either. Whether Roy is going to come down, we meet every second Tuesday of the month.
Okay, cool.
So we
try and get down in December. Cool. Right, are there any more questions? Oh, hang on a minute, sorry. One more in the chat. Will there be a limit on the number of people who access the app?
Yeah, there will be a limit because it's your treasurer, it's your two authorized people, it's your authorized people that should only be accessing the app. You know, the app shouldn't be out. It's not everybody. It's the user. There'll be a registered user for that. So you've got to be registered so that, yes, there's definitely a limit on the number of people that can use it.
I think Ken raised an interesting point there. It's treasurers have still got a very important role, but that role, how they conduct it, will evolve and change with this introduction. Michael, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I joined the meeting late. You may have covered something similar already, but we'd like to hold a subsidised Christmas lunch, and on the basis that it will foster comradeship and strengthen the branch community and support the REA's objectives. That will go to our committee. There is no problem with that, I assume.
There's definitely not. I mean, as I say, we're not the arbiters of your account. We are governance for finance. The branch decides what it wants to do with its money. The overarching rule, though, of course, is it's as you've just described. It fits within the objects of the charity. We are all part of the charity.
Right.
So
okay, well, that's good.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good news. I think that's great. Thank you.
I'm just going to check through Q&A button. Nope, there's just those ones been answered. There's no further questions in the chat, so I'll just do an any more for any more. Scroll through the 3 pages of attendees. Okay. No. Okay. Ken, can I ask you to provide a summary, please, and then we will get back to everyone with where this is going to be hosted in terms of the recording and with the summary of the whole meeting, and that will be put onto SAPCOM and it will be distributed also through deputy group directors.
Well, thank you for. I think this is the largest meeting, largest full communication meeting that we've had, where everybody is able to talk. We've had meetings with lots of people there, but most people haven't been able to talk. But this has been very stable tonight. I'm sort of staggered because I'm at home and I have almost no internet. So it's been a real success at that. I want to thank the 35 attendees for attending and for all of the questions that have been submitted. I hope that we've been able to describe what we're doing and the proposals and how it will work. I'm taking on board everything you've said. The meeting has been recorded, so we will have all of the details, so we won't miss anything. We will, over the next couple of months, go out with the required information with regards to how it will work, timescales, the structures of the accounts, all of that information, and we'll put it out and taking Ian's point, we'll make sure it goes out to everybody, and so that everybody gets the same information at the same time, so that people aren't left out of the loop. And I would also invite you to come back with questions. If there's gaps, if you see gaps in what we're offering, if you see issues and you're not confident about how we're dealing with it, please come back, because it's the feedback that we get from the branches that will make sure that we provide an adequate system for everybody that you can have that people can have confidence in. And that's important to me, because I don't want this to be something that becomes a problem, and that that my team spends an incredible amount of time having to firefight in. I want us to have a successful system. So thank you for all of the questions, and thank you for listening to me go on, and actually also providing us with some really good understanding of the issues that you face as well. So we will make sure that all of that information is disseminated in a way that people can understand. And when we are ready, I've got to take it to the board, get the board's final agreement on the timescales. The board meeting's on the 21st of November. So part of the board meeting will be a proposal that will be this is the timescales, this is the structure, this is how it's going to be run, this is how it's going to be managed, this is how Core Funds is going to support it, this is how the branches will be in, and then we'll look at the timescales. Because obviously there's some big points that have come out tonight, which I agree with Phil's point about actually keeping accounts open whilst we transition individuals who are not going to be comfortable with the direct debit transfers or standing order transfers. I get that, fully get that. So we are going to have to run a dual system for perhaps longer than everybody anticipated. So that's there. All of that will be accounted for. The things about, members who have to pay will only pay in cash because they literally have no electronic banking whatsoever. We've got to account for that. We're not going to leave somebody behind because they don't use online banking. So we will deal with all of those issues that have been raised, and we will find solutions with the banking system to ensure that everybody can come along with the system and have confidence in it. So thank you tonight for everybody's input. And we will hopefully that we will do better with our communications going forward, and make sure that, and we've got more people in the field. We've got a real point of contact with regiments now. So that issue that was raised there about the Royal Mons, we will work to overcome that. And where regiments are like that, the regiments have got a lot to lose if they don't communicate with us, because we've provided over £130,000 of funding to the serving corps, not including OPTUR grants, not including adventure training grants, not including elite sport grants. So, we're providing hundreds of thousands of pounds into the serving corps. So it is also in their interest to communicate well with us. We want to support them, but it's a two-way street. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ken. Keep an eye out on SAPACOM, everyone, and likely there'll be another one of these town halls in the new year. And we will, like I said, we'll publish it on SAPACOM and in the newsletter as well. So again, thank you very much, everyone, for your time.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.